This is a space where men speak, and my name is Makabelo Motaung, also known as Coach KB. I'm a social and dating coach and your host for this feature that I run on my timeline every day. And
Yeah.
today's guest is the smartest guy that I know. I don't know why this guy thinks he's not smart, but he's the smartest guy I know, really. Hello, Bongani.
Hello, Magabelo. How are you,
How
KB?
are you? I'm good, man. Long time.
We've
Uphatheke
actually been.
njani lapho ezilalini?
No, 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 no. Ascos landed, manje. Cape Town,
Ngiyakusukela.
Cape Town, Cape Town. But my background is antique because I'm at my grandmother's house. So that's why
Yay,
you
we love the
see.
antique. You know how you know you are at your grandmother's
Antiqueness.
house.
Yeah.
You know how you know.
Exactly,
That's tiger,
exactly.
that's fair.
Look, I've gone everywhere in this house, and it looks just like my grandmother's house from every particular direction. So it doesn't matter where I sit.
We love our grannies. You know, that's how
Yes,
we know ukuthi sisekhaya. Those things have so much memories. Like I remember Nami, I have a lot of memories with those things that are there in the background. I know very well, you know.
hmm
Anyway, Bongani, please introduce yourself to my viewers.
yeah. Wow. I actually was not expecting that. Usually, one does expect such. Maybe the host does that for a person,
No,
but
no, no, no,
that's
no.
fine. But it's fine. But actually, I love introductions, and when you chair a lot of meetings, I love introducing the people that are around the table with me. And I think it's actually one of the things that I do quite well. But I do it well on the basis of me having to understand and knowing who that person is
Hmm,
and for what purpose they are in this particular meeting or setting, you know?
hmm.
And I find it also strange that every time when it comes to me, I've just got like to say,
You
well,
don't know what to say. You're like, I'm Bongani.
I'm
I'm
just
Bongani.
Bongani,
Bongani is me.
Bongani Michael. That's it. Yeah, because I mean, I can say so many things about you, and then it's really interesting because we we actually hardly ever get to think about who we are ourselves. We always
Hmm.
thinking about everyone else, how to describe everyone, what they are doing, who they are, how important they are. But we never get to really reflect on ourselves and be able to say, look, I'm Bongani Michael. I'm this important to the world, and this is what I do, and all that. But yeah, let me try now. I think for anyone listening, Macabelo's interest in me would be the fact that I'm a person who's an introvert, so by nature I would comment a lot on social media platforms because we are the kind that is very quiet outside but very talkative when it comes to other platforms that does not require a physical meeting or interaction, you know. So her interest would be because of the fact that I comment a lot, I make my opinion heard, because I find it's easy because you're writing, so it's text, so it's quite easy. And I would think because Macabelo knows that I've written a book called Black Love that focuses
Yeah.
on black relations and why they are how they are, and also the factors that impose themselves on black relationships, with the intent of having the black man and the black woman understand themselves better so that we can actually create a better future, right? So I think my interest as well in this topic of dysfunctional men can also stem from the work that I've done with the book Black Love as well. Because I mean, it's in that book I'm trying to make people understand what is happening to the black man, you know, but more in a relationship environment, right? And it's aimed towards at bettering that relationship environment. So, dysfunctional black men, in the overall sense, with regards to the community and society, would be something that I would have to expand upon in terms of how then do we get to understand um, what makes black men dysfunctional, you know?
Hmm.
And what would be interesting to understand as well would be what are women's understanding of what a dysfunctional black man
Black
is?
man is, yeah,
Yes,
right?
exactly. So what do women say? What does Macabelo understand about
A
dysfunctional black?
dysfunctional man.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
are you now? Hey, basically, this guy, I'm in. Hey, I'm inviting this guy to my show, and now he's taking over. He's asking me the questions. You see your problem. So Ulirato, I to just get to the point. Just introduce yourself. Yes, Ulirato guys usile bara.
Guys, oh, I'm also now in Cape Town. I'm based in Cape Town with a company called the Nedebe Group, where I'm doing some internal consulting, but also have quite a few joint ventures with them as well. So I'm a business strategist, a thinker. I provide solutions, and yeah, basically that's what I do: provide access to capital and markets for companies, entrepreneurs, and the likes. But in the main, I solve solutions. So let's get to the point. Ufuna ukuyaphi, Makabelo?
Ulirato andazi mami yazi usijahileni. We have a whole hour. But
Yep.
let's get down to this topic. I mean, look, from observation, a lot of us know they're dysfunctional men, but we don't know if they're dysfunctional because bafuna or it's the society or pressure. What makes men dysfunctional, especially black men? What makes our black brothers nabo baba bethu, nabo bhuti bethu, to be dysfunctional in your view?
Look, you know when I think of this, Makabelo, is that society as a whole and the environment itself is quite dysfunctional. So what I would think, anything that is dysfunctional is something that has been prescribed to operate in a certain way. So there needs to be that prescription, there needs to be that directive, right, that says this particular thing needs to behave in a certain way. Now, when that particular thing does not behave in that particular way, what it then means, there is a dysfunctionality in there. It's not
Mm,
operating as it's supposed to be.
mm, mm.
So now, when we talk about dysfunctional men, we are trying to say now men are not operating as they are
As they
supposed
should be.
to. So now,
Mm,
just to get that understanding in terms of the word itself.
mm,
So now, how are men supposed to be, right?
mm,
And when you look at what we would term to be dysfunctional men, I would think are symptoms actually of a dysfunctional society. It's not a symptom of the men themselves, right, or their
mm,
doings, but
mm,
it's actually signs of how society is itself, right? So
mm.
if you would have taken note, we with Black Love, we love to say that love is what you do, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
what you do is who you are, right?
mm,
So now within that context, I would say what black men do is who they are. So who they are is something that they want to determine themselves, right?
mm,
Now the dysfunctional man, it is not who they are, right? There is then a prescription as to how they should be. So
mm,
whatever is dysfunctioning is only a sign of what is happening to black men. So what is happening to black men? So now
mm,
we need to have that understanding as what is happening to them. And whatever is happening to them is then the reason why black men are now as dysfunctional as they are. And there are several things that we can look at in terms of what is making them dysfunctional. And there's a particular timeline that I would also love to look at in terms of getting to understand why they are dysfunctional. So, so now, can we ask ourselves, when has the black man ever been functional, or when last?
yeah, well, that's a tricky one because I mean we always refer to Abo Mama Betu and Nabo Baba Betu and Nabo Mkulu Betu and think they were a better generation. They seem to have been functional then. you know, according to the world as it is now? Has a black man always been dysfunctional in your view?
Look, the intention from the black man, meaning his actions, his intent, has never been that of being dysfunctional.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
But however, there are certain things that impacts on their behavior that ultimately leaves them dysfunctional. I think the kids have now arrived. Can just let me know when they are making a noise in the background. The grandkids.
yeah, baqale kancane nje.
So so I think let's look at when things started to go wrong, right? I'm not trying to be apologist. My assertion is that society as it is not functional at all. And it's not just because of something that happened today. You would
Mm,
have to look at the fact that there has always been something that is happening in society as a whole that has made sure that we as a society cannot function as how we should be.
mm,
So
mm,
from the years in terms of the 1600s when the Van Riebeeks came here, to the wars in the 1800s, and the apartheid in the 1900s, and then in the late 90s, closer to the 2000s, the new millennium, what we had to deal as a society with getting to know how do we behave in this new democracy, and what does it feel like to be included, right? What does it
mm,
feel like to actually be now a citizen that has to be um, operating within a system of law, of governance, of power, and
mm,
so we've always been keeping up with something, so meaning
mm,
that there hasn't been a particular lockdown period where we can actually say, look, let's have a look at how we do things. Let's have a look at how we discipline ourselves,
mm,
how we are cultured as people, and let's form a framework of how we're going to behave in society, so we are always responding to a particular crisis, and we are
yeah.
always in crisis, right? Right now, we are getting used to wearing a mask every day, everywhere we're going. We are getting used to washing our hands. We are getting used to social distancing. We are getting used to curfews. So there's constantly things in our lives, in society as a whole, that has ensured that we do not get to the point of actually getting to regulate in a cultural manner what it means to be a man or to be a wife, and what it means to function in a society normally. So you don't have that normal functioning society, so which means then you're probably not going to have men who function normally. Hence
Have
when
we
we see,
ever had, sorry, have we ever had a black family that functions? Have we ever had that though to begin with?
we do, we do. The trick here is this, Makabel. For example, you find one person who is religious and another person who's not religious.
Mm,
So to the religious person, the one who's not religious is not functional, he's dysfunctional,
he's
because
dysfunctional,
they
yeah.
don't adhere to what the religious person finds as functional, right? And the opposite applies as well. A lot of non-religious people will see religious people and say, but these guys are not normal and all that, right? So there has been normalities, but these normalities have been on the opposite ends of things, right? For example,
Mm,
we might say there has been a family that has been going to church. They've been married for 20 years, they've had kids, no divorce. That's functionality. But
mm,
then the patriarchy that goes within there and everything else, then it would also create something else, that
mm,
is
mm,
not normal within another context. So we have found normalcy within what we think should be normal, or
mm,
within what we can do for ourselves. So I'm not going to say that we've never had normal families. No, we've done we had some, but it's society as a whole that has not been actually quite normal, because one of the biggest things that we actually struggle with in many groups that are orientated towards forming a better man out there is that no one can actually define what makes a man. So we can go outside and say, define what it is to be a man. Yini ukuba
Mm.
yindoda, right?
Ndoda, yes, yes.
Exactly. So if you find ourselves not being able to define something as simple as that, now what then does that tell us about us actually knowing something about ourselves, that we can say, look,
Mm.
this is what defines a man, right?
Mm.
Then we can get to something that says this is what a normal man is. And once we know what a normal man, what it means to be a normal man, then we can say, well, that is not normal, so it's dysfunctional. So
Mm.
can we actually say men are dysfunctional within an environment where we have not even defined what it means to be a man, or
To
what
be
his
a
purpose
man, yeah.
is, what his
I mean,
purpose
look,
should be?
it's always been easy to say you are not a good man. This one is a good man. You're not a good man because you are a criminal, you're a rapist, you are a neglector, you're an abuser, you are so therefore you are not a good man. You are not a functional man
Yeah,
because you are causing harm on others. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so, so does that not is that not how we evaluate if a person, a man, is functional or dysfunctional on the basis of how he treats his family, on the basis of how he treats his community, on the basis of how he carries himself as well?
Okay. I would like to maybe take us to something else as well. Look, let's try to have a look at what the 24-hour diary of a man consists of, right?
Okay.
So a 24-hour diary of a man consists out of two two-thirds of that, meaning 16 hours,
Mm,
that he does not have power over, right? We'll
mm,
assume that the 8 hours are for sleep.
mm,
We'll assume that another 8 hours are for work. So two-thirds of his time is gone to things he has no control over. When he's sleeping, it's the unconscious mind that is awake. When he's awake and going to work, his subjective mind is then awake because he's subjected to the control and to the dictate of whoever his employer is. Right?
mm,
Now then it means then two-thirds of your time you're not yourself. So now you only have one-third to determine actually who you are and what you actually want to
mm,
achieve in life, and what you can actually influence and affect and impact in society, right?
mm,
And and that leaves him with just about 8 hours. From that 8 hours, he uses another 2 hours to travel from work and to work and from work. He uses maybe another 2 hours to run a bit of errands there and there, and then he's left with 4 hours in his day. So now he's got 4 hours then to split between his children, the homework. Maybe he's going to check that, maybe he does not. Usually he does not, because the mom would maybe have gotten to it. And then he has to spend time again with what's out there as the media, which is now the global influence. So then
mm,
he sits there and spends that 4 hours being influenced by the globe, but what the media says, what television says, right?
mm,
And once he's got maybe an hour left before he sleeps, and if you're looking at that, it means that it cannot be normal, because nothing that you do you have control over mostly.
mm,
So now, is such a society quite normal, whereby the majority of your time you don't have any control over, right?
mm,
So can a person who does not have that control over himself, sorry, and his life, is that person really one that can be functional towards his own benefit, or that of the ones that he loves in his life? right?
Mm,
That already should tell us that it's not possible that he really can have much control over that, right? So now then you would also have to think of the other factors in terms of how he himself is being influenced by a fast developing world and nation, and how his partner as well is being influenced by a fast developing world and nation. I think also one of the things that we have not really tried to be honest about is that we are stuck between two. We are
mm,
stuck between culture, which is also our third world. We are stuck between globalization, first world. So we are
mm,
right there in between. So now, as soon as we got this democracy, right, we were exposed to this first world, and we now had to choose. So what should have happened naturally is that when a country is getting its freedom, it needs to stop everything and then say, look, we've gotten to this point now. Can we stock take as to what we've lost? Can we stock take as to what we have? And can we actually see now how we can move forward ourselves without the influence of outsiders? But what we have done, we immediately opened the gates up to be influenced by everyone else, right? Because it's a new democracy, rainbow nation, and everything else like that. When you look at how China has responded to the COVID-19, China was able to respond quickly because of the fact that it's a country that is highly disciplined. It is highly entrenched in culture, right? It's a country that is very nationalistic. So now those three things are very important. They are disciplined, they've got culture, and they've really got they've got nationalism in them. What that means then is that if you as a country are not going to focus on those three things, you don't entrench yourselves in terms of the culture that you have and what culture should dictate to how the men, the women, the children should behave like, if you're not going to have them disciplined according to some form of discipline. So now then you would need to ask me then, what is that discipline then? For some, for example, in the Middle East, that discipline is religion, right?
mm, mm,
Middle
mm,
East, religion is that discipline, right? So
mm,
now, what is that discipline for ourselves?
mm,
Scandinavian countries, you would find that communism is the discipline. In the
mm,
Americas, you would find that nationalism is their discipline, right? They are very proud about their flag, you know.
mm,
Now we don't have any of that discipline, right? We have a law, a constitution that is supposed to do that. But that constitution cannot do that because that constitution itself is dictated by so many other global legislations, that are out there.
mm,
So if you don't have discipline and if you don't have any particular control to dictate what the national culture should be, then you are most definitely going to get an abnormal society that is dysfunctional, hoping
mm,
that
mm,
law is going to maintain things and get things right. But then at the
mm,
end of the day, when Makabela and Bongani are there in the bedroom, there is no judge there, there's no police officer there. Hence, you
mm,
get men behaving in the way that they do, right?
mm,
Because there is nothing really essentially there out there that cultivates us in a certain direction to behave in a certain way. It's
mm.
everyone for himself currently,
So no, a black man is not guided by any principles, is what you're saying. A black man is guided by what he's exposed to, and if he's exposed to a negative environment, he's guided by that. Is that what you're saying as well?
What I'm saying is that the underlying factors that influences how a black man lives currently and survives are the ones that are causing him to not be in position to even develop those principles.
Mm,
As I'm sitting here at my grandmother's house, I'll make now this personal example. So there's a young man here, Umchanawam, right?
mm,
We took him to the mountain, and he gets schooled there on what it means to being a man.
mm,
After that, before we took him to the mountain, he was your regular thug, your para. He steals, he robs, and all
mm,
that. So then you think as a family that let's give him some discipline through the passage of manhood. Then you take him to
mm,
the mountain, right? After taking him to the mountain, then you provide him with a shelter of his own, right? A back.
mm,
After giving them that back room, then you get him a job, and he gets that
mm,
job. And then you tell him that now you've got everything in place. You've gone through the passage of manhood. You've gotten
mm,
yourself a small place. You've gotten a job now. We've given you all these things to be a man, right?
mm, mm,
What happens then is that he gets to the workplace and he hates it.
mm,
He absolutely hates the workplace. And who does not hate the workplace? So now those are some of the things that actually really now that makes it so difficult for you to define yourself as well, to keep to your own principles as well. Because
mm,
there's something out there that is just so what you can say that is rotten or dysfunctional, right? That you get to be placed in, right? That is totally anti most things of what makes you a human, right? For example, you are a man. Immediately when you get to the job place, you are a boy. You take instructions.
yeah,
You get told what to do. You
what
have
to do?
no
Yeah.
you have no authority at all. So those are the things, right, that makes it so difficult that even if you have a 10-point plan of what it means to be disciplined and to be a man, it's difficult to keep to those 10 points because there are so many other things that influences how you behave and how you think and how
Mm,
you view the world, because
mm,
we have absolutely no authority of over what we do or what we want or what we want to become. So
yeah.
if we can make the world a bit of a better place in certain instances, right? So I'm gonna go again to make the example of the guys in the Middle East. So the guys in the Middle East, you know the women they wear the
Yeah.
the
Must.
thing. I don't know what it's called. Do you know? Do you have a name for that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know either, but I see what you're saying.
Exactly. So now in that country, the employer respects that. The employer does not tell the woman to take it off. Now you, Makabela, you get married and then you get your dookie and your scarves. You get told to take it off. You
Mm,
get told to wear a particular uniform. Now what is that? So now if the workplace does not respect those cultural principles, it does not protect them, because you should be able to work at the bank with you or anywhere else at the casino and wear your dookie and how you want to wear as per your culture wants you.
mm,
In
mm.
fact, what we call traditional clothing should fit as any particular uniform
As a
wherever you
corporate way as well, yeah. But like,
exactly.
how does the government accommodate us when they've given us the freedom to say, okay, we will have 11 official languages, we will have all these different cultures and religion, and they must all come together and be one. How do we? Because I mean, you are talking about Middle East here. Their dominant religion is, I don't know what is it? Is it Hindu? Is it Muslim? What is their dominating
They are Arab.
religion?
Yeah, they are
And
Muslims.
then here, Bazozalana, and then how is that gonna work? Because here we have different beliefs, we have different that guides us, and no one wants to now abandon what they know as their religion
Hmm.
to to have that one discipline across all human race, if I can say that.
For example, yes, you're right, we don't have that one culture or tradition, right? But we have several of them, but most of them are the same. They are the same everywhere, for most of our cultures. And I don't think it would be that difficult to accommodate those particular elements. But besides the simplicity in speaking about the uniform, what about the way people talk to the elders? You know,
Mm,
the elder who's the cleaner. What about
mm,
the way of respecting when they need to attend a particular family event or ritual. So those are the other things that really actually gets into making it, um, that also takes part of what people become out there, right? And if we have to talk now specifically about men as well and women and how they behave, the two genders,
Mm,
what I've also found that is that mostly in our society we've split men from women from a young age as they are children. So you'd find that Ubongani grows up as a boy, he's only allowed
mm,
to play with boys. Makabelo grows up as a girl, only allowed to play with girls.
mm,
At schools as well, we spend our lives separately, church, separation. And then once we are adults, once we are over the age of 21, we are expected to get married and we are expected to understand each other. So now,
mm.
how do you then expect two people who have lived complete different
Far
isolated
apart.
lives,
Mm,
far apart, to now be in union and be able to be functional as a couple, you see? So now
mm,
those
mm,
are some of the factors as well in terms of we've been separated for such a long time.
mm,
We don't really know each other that much. Hence,
mm,
what's normal to you is abnormal to him. He doesn't understand.
mm.
He finds you dysfunctional. He finds you being the one who's problematic,
I'm
you know?
loud. I'm this. Yeah, that's
And,
true. How
and
do
the
we
same
fix this though?
and in the same way you find him to be dysfunctional and being problematic. So I think what in terms of fixing it, it's going to be it's going to be difficult in a way, but also simple. I believe that we firstly need to understand what we are about, define who we are. Can each and every person be able to say, look, let's define ourselves and
Mm,
find one constant that defines us. Meaning
mm,
that as a person, defining yourself, you have to start with your clan, right? I'm Bongani Michael, I'm Xhosa. I'm from the Sukwini tribe or clan. What does it mean to be Xhosa, right? Is there something like that out there that says this is what it means to be Xhosa? I'm from the Sukwini clan. What does it mean to be Sukwini? Is there something out there that is actually written, that is standardized to say this is what it means to be Sukwini, right? So I am from the Ndu family. What does it mean to be a member of the Ndu family? Beyond being a Ndu family member, I'm a boy, I'm a man. What does it mean to be a man then? So can you
mm,
see, up until
mm.
we define
Everything is
from where
linked.
from the
Yeah.
from the origins in terms of you being closer, you being from whatever clan you are. So those are the definitions that we need to get to first. And then once we get there, then we can most definitely also now sort out what it means to be in a relationship beyond you being from one particular family, joining another family. What does that union now mean? However, I also think that if we can actually understand the factors that are making us so dysfunctional first, we can behave better, you know. And if the black man can understand the black woman better, and the black woman can also understand the black man better, it would make it easier for us to at least relate in a very in a not so hostile manner, you know, because
Mm,
for now Makabela has given up on Bongani and Bongani has given up on Makabela.
mm,
I don't have an understanding that Makabelo needs to be given a job and she needs to earn 30,000 while I'm going to be earning 3,000, you know?
mm,
So those are some of the things that we need to have a good understanding of, you know? I don't
mm,
necessarily think it's about men having to understand their feminine side. I actually think it has little to do with men understanding their kuthiwa indoda ayikhali, but sometimes we do cry, and we do cry onto each other's we do cry in each other's presence. We might not do it in front of a woman, but it doesn't mean we don't
mm,
cry. It doesn't mean
mm,
that my best friend does not come to me and say, Bongani, but my girlfriend has cheated and she has done this and that. No. So the
mm,
focus should be less on trying to say, look, how then do men get in touch with their feminine side as to resolve the conflict he has with his woman? I don't think it has
mm,
to do with that. I think it has to do with really having to find a place where we can actually lock down and say, well, look, this is too much. This globalization is too much. We are getting so far ahead of ourselves. Can we find some lockdown or shutdown so that we can reflect on our society as a whole? And then I
mm,
think when we all can understand society as a whole, we would actually appreciate each other more. Because for
mm,
now, it's a matter of survival of the fittest. It's a matter of, can Bongani find that perfect woman and then he's done, but not a matter of Bongani having to understand that there are a lot of women out there that do have the potential, and there's a lot of things that he can do to better other women as well, and not just the woman that he is interested in, right?
mm,
Because if I can better one woman, even if she's not for myself, but it's I'm bettering someone for someone else. So, and that's how we would be assisting each other. So it's yeah, I think it's basically based on that. Can we actually really understand what we are going through, what makes us
mm,
dysfunctional? And if we can
mm,
understand it, then we would be much more closer to finding solutions.
mm. You mentioned earlier, Uguti, because men have been so excluded for so long, they've been excluded from women for so long since they were little kids and whatever.
Yeah.
Does a man know how to be present as a man in his household today?
Does he know how to
Because
be present?
how to be present as a man in his household today. I mean, you've broken it down nicely when you
Mhm.
said Uguti, a man has literally 8 hours to himself. 2 hours he'll use for traveling, two
Yeah.
hours he'll use for his errands, and probably 4 hours he's at home, really, to be present at home. In those
Mhm.
4 hours that he's present, though, does he know how to be present as a man? Or
As sim-
because he's been away, he doesn't know how to even relate with the woman. He doesn't even know how to be present and functional in those 4 hours that he has.
Look, to simply put it, does he even know how to keep a conversation for 2 hours? Does he know that? If he has
Does
never
he?
spent 2 hours on a regular basis keeping conversation with a lady, would he be able to in as a husband?
As a
So
father as well.
exactly. So now, if dating for a black man has always been, when you're a teenager, you go and look for her, you find her, you spend 10 minutes, you're gone. And then in the worst case, you only do that so that you can have some sex, and then you're gone again. You know?
Mm,
It also speaks to spatial planning and design, that literally there hasn't been space for couples to actually really engage in conversation with their
mm,
loved ones, because they just never don't they don't ever have the time enough, right? So now the guy that you are talking about that is there with his wife, just think about it. How many times has he spent 3 hours conversing with a lady? you know
mm, mm,
Hardly has ever done so. So you would find that he cannot do that. So he does not know how to be present, but he is present. So for
mm,
him, being present is for him being in the house.
mm,
I mean, necessarily he has to now chat about this, chat about that, and chat about that, because it also boils down to what? To interest. He didn't
mm,
know you well and what interests you so much. and for you to find commonality in your interests so that you can actually have something that interests you. Because most of the time you just see a lady, she's beautiful, you go for her, she says yes, you are in a relationship. You have never
Mm,
what the interests are and all that. Because
yeah,
being present means that knowing the person to that particular level. And you know
yeah.
what also creates that, Makabelo, is that
Mm-mm.
we've been a society that is always looking for someone they don't know. See how many times when you look for a partner, you don't want to be involved with the ones you know. You want it to be someone that you have met somewhere at Dubai or
Why
wherever.
is that?
So that is also now creating that problem of not knowing how to be present with each other. Now, the one person that you actually know, the Bongani Michael that you've known for 10, 15 years, you think, Bongani Yamazi, it's not going to work. And we are more
Mm,
fascinated by people that we don't know. And we want to
mm,
get into relationships with people we don't know.
we don't
Then
know.
you look, then you look at what happens now with other societies or cultures, whereby every time when they select someone they will be in a relationship with, it's always coming from close family environment. They know
Mm,
each other, the parents know each other, they've grown up in the same community and all the time. So so these are sometimes some of the tricky factors that affects who we end up with. We seem to rather think and be fascinated by the fact that you're getting someone new, you're gonna start learning more about them, whereas in reality it should not be about that. You should be loving the
mm.
one you know, not loving the one you will get to know, you know
Back to your point, I have ama comments lana. Ulirato uti the system robs us of quality time namadota ethu. Where is it? Oh my god, I think it just went up now. Anyway, let me just read a few of the comments that we have. Uh Ubani Ureji ati Ubongani, why are you so loud? We want people we don't know. Okay, that was to your point. Miz says it makes sense. A lot of men struggling to function without the instruction. And back to your point, we really don't have instructions on how to function. Even women, I don't
yeah,
think this is necessarily just for men. We all don't have some type of instruction on how to function.
yeah,
But especially as Black people,
yeah,
am I wrong to say I see white people functioning better than us?
yeah. you are
What
you,
is
you're
your
not
take on that?
you are not wrong at all, because white people, as I said, they are the ones, first of all, who will always love someone they know. That's why on The Bold and the Beautiful, you'll see Brooke gets married to this one and that one and that one. She always knows these people that she gets married to.
You have to take it there.
But I'm
Akafuna
not
ma-stranger lo, ufuna abantu abaziyo.
exactly. So I'm not saying that we should go to the extreme of Brooke Shields, but but for example, there has been a debate on Facebook last year where Xhosa women were saying that they find Xhosa men problematic because to date a Xhosa man means that chances are your friends will know him. So now
Mm,
Xhosa woman has this thing that, but ish, I don't want a Xhosa man because somehow they all know each other.
mm,
And I don't know why that means that people knowing your lover makes that a vulnerability or
mm.
exposes you somehow.
I
So
see they know my story. They know ukuthi, oh, KB, the one who likes drinking wine, lo othanda abafana, lo othanda, and that makes me incapable of loving, and that makes me incapable of being a loyal wife or angithi nishada integrity nina manishada abafazi. Anishadi someone who makes you happy. You marry someone who make everyone else but you happy, you know?
yes, so I found that to be funny because I explained it in this way that, for example, in what I saw in Midrand, there's a lot of Xhosa men there, right?
Mm,
It's I think it's the Eastern Cape of of Johannesburg.
mm,
So what happens in Midrand is that we, because there's a lot of Xhosa men, and with us Xhosa men as well.
Mm.
You cannot not know another guy. So hence for us, it's always a priority to get to know the next Xhosa man. And
Mm.
meaning that you get to know from his name, his clan name, why he's there, and what does he do, and all that. And
Mm.
that then creates that close bond, you know. So hence we all become friends because we all have to know each other because there's a law that you cannot not know another man. Then it means you are not a man. So hence we take that role of making sure that we know each other, right? So it has nothing to do with a deliberate intent of playing women and all that, and being this close knit society that shares information about everyone else, that makes
Mm.
you worried. You know, it has nothing to do about that, but it's about the principle of being a closer man that you have to acknowledge and know the next closer man. You know, so
Mm.
and I would think it goes down like that with regards to others as well in other cultures that you have to know the next man. And
Mm.
and for some reason we think that that is wrong. We are not supposed to be friends with everyone. And if if Bongani was dating Makabelo, Lerato can't now date Bongani because they both know Bongani and all that, of which
Mm.
it's problematic. You know, you have
Mm.
a better chance of having a long lasting relationship with people that you know. Love those you know. Don't go and look for strangers.
Guys, ngiyezwa i-advice yakabongani ukuthi love the ones that you know. They'll give you less
Exactly,
problems, you know. But
exactly.
back to our topic at hand, Bongani. What is now the impact of what we've discussed on families? The impact of this dysfunctional, for lack of a better word, dysfunctional men on black families.
Yeah, I think it has created an antagonism whereby now
Ngicela
where
ukhuluma isilungu esi-right ne?
we it, it
Esi-acceptable.
it has created conflict because
Okay, that's
now
understandable.
now I'm not interested in black women because I find them to be very strong in terms of being liberated, and black women have become activist, feminist, and even if they are not activists, but the attitude and the thinking and the
We've
behavior,
become aggressive. Mm.
exactly, you know, it's so aggressive, you know, even when it's not aggressive, even when it's not
Mm.
aggressive. But that's why I'm saying that black women aren't necessarily activists, but it's because
Mm.
they know, and it's because there's something that they want, which is equality, and that equality gets to be branded as feminism. So Machiavelli is not necessarily a feminist, but she wants equality.
Mm.
Then it becomes a problem because now I don't understand what she wants. I think now she wants to dominate, right?
Mm.
At the end of the day, Macabello as well sees a whole lot of relationships or a whole lot of men doing bad things out there. And this could be
Mm.
because of the influences that the media images have out there. And it creates this perception that black men are dysfunctional. And what that does again, it then creates this image that Macabello is not necessarily interested in anyone because of the fact that black men are dysfunctional by nature. So
Mm.
so now from both ends, what has happened now is that we are both not interested in each other because of these perceptions. Because I have now this perception that for some reason Macabello is a feminist and she just wants to take control, and women wants to be men right now. And on the other hand, what Simpiwe Dana has said is that black men are broke and they're just looking they are just looking for the wallet right now. and 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 the worst is that it's not necessarily that bad, right? But the outlook makes it look as if it's bad. There are still people who are in good relationships. There are still good human beings out there. But now many of them, they take a back seat, like myself, but not for those reasons. But for some reason,
Mm.
we then stay single, you know.
Oh,
And
Malume, we can't hear you. The kids are loud now, eh?
Bali, yeka, ngcola.
Mm.
So
Thank you.
so now what it creates that stalemate whereby now we don't know what to do. There's a whole lot of black women who are single now. They don't want to get involved into relationships. Equally, there's a whole lot of black men who are also single now, and for some reason they don't also want to get involved into relationships. But the overall image, I would say that black people do have good relationships. Overall, we are good. Overall, we can really sustain relationships. But then as well, the media perception will always be much more stronger than what the reality
Than
is.
the reality. Okay,
Yes, yes.
Malume, I'm gonna let you go, but before I do, we still have a bit of time. It's just that the I'm thinking the kids are bored now.
All right.
So for me, what do you think the current black man is passing on to the next boy child?
You know, that's actually quite sad, you know. And I think I'm also a I will not exclude myself from that tragedy. I will again make a personal family example. Look, when I grew up, I had a lot of black men, elder men around me. And
Mm,
basically they could discipline me just by being present. So
mm,
they would not necessarily have to tell me what to do, but they, I would caution myself because I know they're around, you know. So now
mm,
what the democracy has done is this. So now we were fortunate enough to grow up in front of our older brothers, and there were many of them around us, you know, for them to guide us and to teach us and to do all these things. But what happened with us is that we were then the generation that went to university and got
mm.
these good jobs, right?
And
So
moved away.
yes, we were subtracted from the environment, from society,
Mm,
right? Firstly, by the university because you have to be there at res. Secondly, you get a job. Now you have to stay closer to the workplace. Thirdly, you're getting an income. You need your own place, and you don't get your own place in the township. You still stay there closer to work in the suburbs, right? Look,
mm,
then a vacuum was created because everyone else that has come after me complains, even my own sisters, that
mm,
you know, big bro, you've robbed us of time.
mm,
For more than 10 to 15 years, you were not there, you know, because we cannot really count the weekend, the one weekend we come home,
mm,
10 days we come home during December. That really does not count, you know. And so that vacuum was created that the boys who are coming after us were now the gangsters, amaparapara. They didn't have us to actually be around them and to
mm,
really impose and impart some lessons and be the examples and the figures that we should be to them because we have all been busy trying to get that degree, trying to get that job, trying to maintain that job, and then
mm,
always going on to the next thing. Hence, now I'm saying that we've progressed to a society where it's everyone from himself. Now, within the white race or the white society, that works perfectly. Everyone from himself. The mother takes the kid to a boys' school or a girls' school. They grow up there. So they have ways of dealing with that vacuum of not being there, right? But
yeah.
we do not. And now we have
Mm,
left young kids with our mothers and grandmothers, and these kids have been on the streets and they end up doing their own thing. And there's no older brother who can actually tell them, hey guys, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do
mm,
this. All of us
mm,
are not there. So now this
mm,
dislocation in between the generation of maybe the guys from the 80s and 70s and the kids of the 90s and the 2000s, there's a big dislocation there,
mm,
right? the 80s kids were able to benefit because the 70s kids were there for them.
Mm,
But now the 80s kids were not there for the guys of the 90s, and the 90s
mm.
for the 2000s. So now
That
that
makes sense, eh?
that there's a big gap. So now that's why I'm saying that I would be honest to say that there's nothing that we've actually been imparting on them.
Mm.
And
Which
and
was
and
my next question, Uguti. Are the black men of today neglecting to groom their own? I mean, back then you would be groomed by Putwase next door or Babase next door, telling you how to dress, how to behave, how to treat a woman, how to, now we don't have that. The black men don't even have that voice. They don't even have that say, that
absolutely,
respectable command in the community. Yokuthi, "Ubaba
absolutely,
kabani uzongishaya," it's
absolutely.
almost like somehow the black man has just somehow lost his voice in the community as well. You can't khona manje uwe ubongani go and ukhuze umntwana wase next door and say you are doing this, especially a boy child. You'll be stabbed to death, or
Yeah,
you'll be,
yeah.
has it
No,
gotten dangerous even for a man to be a man? Like there's just a lot to.
it is. You know how women say that they fear men.
Mm,
We
men
men
fear other men.
exactly. We also fear men. Men are dangerous.
You know? So
So
Nina Man Basaba, what more us?
I think it's the you cannot undo it with it's difficult to undo it, man. It's really difficult. I think if it can only be done if we can address things maybe on an economic scale first, so that we all get to a certain normality. Because then again, what creates respect also has to do a lot with the economics, right?
Mm,
In the manner that it's either people are going to respect you for money, right?
mm,
Either people are going to misbehave for money,
mm.
right? So now you can potentially have someone who's going to respect you for your money, but then you'll still have someone who's going to not respect you for that
For
money.
your money.
It's
You know,
that
you'll not be safe again for your money.
exactly. So now
Yeah.
I was thinking of something simple that during the lockdown there's been few robberies and all that because
Mm,
the guys are realizing that people don't have money first of all. But then I
mm,
also thought that sometimes what we do to avoid being robbed is that we give these guys money, that 5 rand, that 10 rand.
mm,
I usually give a 5 rand or 10 rand will not.
mm.
So I thought maybe why don't we just all give them 2 rand so they stop.
So they can stop robbing us.
Exactly. We just all give them 2 rand. You know.
Listen, Ulirato is writing you things in course. I cannot read them because wow, it's too deep. But anyway, what are your last words to us, to the black men? How in our little spaces do we get the connection right as black men and black women, in those little spaces that we have, where we have influence? How do we come together and get it right? How do we
I think I think maybe if I can use these as some last words, right? I have this thinking that I think for most times, right, we don't get to fix things because we focus on the negatives, right? For example, even now, the title is Dysfunctional Men, right? Now we are not even talking about what does the functional guy do, right?
mm, mm.
So now, can you not have maybe then a discussion on functional men? So now, when you have a
I,
discussion,
in my defense, I've had a discussion about how a black man loves and how they loving rights, but I hear you. We tend to focus
so on the negative,
on
right?
the negative,
And
right?
then the negatives gives us that gloomy outlook. And then because we
Mm,
have this gloomy outlook, we think that things are not gonna come right. Whereas it's not the case. we should
Mm,
really just focus on more on the positive. For example, if we know there are people struggling in the relationships, let's focus on the things that should be done within a relationship. For
mm,
example, if within a group of five guys, if two guys get married, that's the positive. You are surely going to
mm,
get the third guy getting married as well. You're going to get the fourth guy getting married and the fifth guy getting,
mm.
and that's how society works. So we should get it into our mind that the more we do good, the more everyone else will also follow suit, because we are setting then that culture of goodness. And
Mm,
so we should really, like mad people, people who are high on drugs, just focus on the good, and say to ourselves, well, it's not that bad and it is going to become better, and let's just
and
develop
speak about that good, right?
and speak about that good, and show it and display it everywhere where we can, and I think that's why I've started also what's called the Black Love movement, is because you would want to show Black
Tell
Love
us
all.
where to find this Black Love movement, please. You have literally a few seconds now.
Yeah, they should just look for a group called Black Love on Facebook. It's Black Love in capital letters. Yeah, that's where you're going to find it. But yeah, let's do more good. Let's focus more on,
Yeah.
and there's nothing else that we can do.
Mm,
But yeah, I am very positive about the future. I think. But yeah, how do we fix this vacuum? Because there's a big vacuum, How do we fix that? How do we deliver the right things and the right tools towards society? So
mm,
do you know how the Christians were able to spread the word of God through having missionaries? So now, if we can also now have our own missionaries who can actually advocate for love, advocate for black men, and then we would be a better society, and not just stop
yeah.
at doing commentary on Facebook, on interviews that
Mm,
it's all bad, but let's actually become these missionaries, people who are actually going to go out. You're going to form groups and movements that are going to be dedicated at fixing what's wrong with the black man. And
yeah.
that's the only way we've got to do it. There are other people who are doing good, like Abo Baba Buntu, and
Mm,
they're really doing good in society, and that's where I would love to be as well. I would love to see the Black Love movement growing nationally, and us actually now showing everyone else that it's not it's not something we are dreaming about, but it is real. It is happening,
mm,
and give the people the evidence. Once people see the evidence, then they will follow suit.
mm.
I think that's why maybe
Hi.
I'm also trying to be less of a hypocrite and find myself a person so that I can be
Ah,
able to.
shut up, Puti. You heard it, guys. Leadership is available. He's single and he is looking. And I'm here to do his matchmaking. So please come to my inbox before you go to him. Leadership Lalela, I will sort you out. Don't worry. I've got that department. I've got
Okay,
your
no,
back.
no
Thank you so much for joining me, Leadership. Thank you so much. I'm going to put the details, yeah, Black Love, on my page and my timeline as well.
Okay.
Thank you for making time and breaking this dysfunctionality down the way that you did. I think if there's any takeout today is really just give the good a voice as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much to everyone else who commented, the loyal commenters, you know yourselves.
But
Thank you. Say your
I'm
goodbye.
also
Yes?
I'm also trying to press hard on the fact that we take writing down things for granted. Let's
Mm,
write these things down. Let's write what it means to be a man down. Why don't we write it down? Let's write it down
mm.
what
Let's
what
have
it
a
means.
reference of it somewhere, right?
Exactly. Because I mean,
Mm,
if we cannot reference to it, then how then do we say this is normal and that is abnormal? So I
mm,
think it's our biggest failure, and I will quickly make an example about traditions. Our rituals that we do.
mm.
Why is it we keep them? We
A
don't have them
secret.
written down. Secret.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost as if someone was magically know it. If you don't know it, then you don't, you're not deserved to be part of that particular clan or grouping. You
Mm,
know, it does not need to be secretive. The reason why people
mm.
do things wrongly is because no one cares to write
No
it
one
down.
tells us, you know?
Exactly. So
Exactly.
it's almost as if there are people who are folding their hands and waiting for people to do things wrong. Whereas we could just make
Mm.
these things simple and write them down, have that prescription, and then from there on we'll then develop what's discipline, what's culture, and what's principle. And from
Yeah,
there on
and
it's really cool.
And for me, I say let's start Lago social media. You know how easily it is for us. I think 80% of what we post about is negative things that are happening, on social media. And maybe start there as well. Start posting positive stories as well that you're seeing happening in your everyday life.
Yep.
Bongani, thank you so much for
Okay.
joining me. We'll talk again. Ngiyabonga, Putini.
Okay, sharp, sharp. Thank you. Thanks
Bye.
to everyone.